Before we begin, look around you. Choose one object. A chair, a door, a shadow in the corner. Now look away, just for a second. Did it stay the same? You assume it did. You trust that walls remain upright when you close your eyes, that ceilings don't soften, that doors don't shift slightly to the left when no one is measuring them. But what if stability isn't permanent? What if reality is less like stone and more like wet cement, held in place only because enough minds are pressing against it? Tonight's stories are not about ghosts, not about possession, not about consciousness spreading across humanity. They are about something simpler: observation. What changes when it is not witnessed? What collapses when it is forgotten? What stabilizes only because we agree it should? And as you listen, be careful what you stop looking at, because some things do not like being left alone. Let's begin. My name is Owen Kessler, and my neighborhood has a meeting every Sunday night. Not about crime, not about parking permits, not about noise complaints. We meet to agree on where everything is. It started subtly. A missing stop sign. Not stolen, not knocked down, just absent. The pole remained, but the red octagon was gone. In its place was blank metal. We laughed about it at first, called it vandalism. Then Mrs. Alder from 12th Street swore her house number had changed overnight, from 118 to 114. Mail addressed correctly still arrived, but the brass digits on her porch read differently. We checked Google Maps. It showed 114. Her mortgage documents said 118. Her driver's license said 118. Her mailbox said 114. That was the first Sunday meeting. We gathered at the small park in the center of Briarcrest Estates, 42 houses arranged in a near-perfect square. Or at least, it had always been a square. That night, someone brought a printed map from 10 years ago. The cul-de-sac curved gently in the southwest corner, but when we looked up, there was no curve. It was a sharp angle now. We walked it together, counted steps, measured distances with a tape measure. The length of Alder Street had shortened by 11 feet. No construction, no debris, no evidence of change, just difference. "I think it's settling," someone said weakly. But concrete doesn't settle symmetrically overnight. That's when Dr. Harlan Pierce, retired surveyor, suggested something that made everyone uncomfortable. "What if the layout isn't fixed?" he said quietly. Silence. "Fixed how?" I asked. "Fixed by us," he replied. He proposed a test. Each household would draw a map of the neighborhood from memory. No collaboration, no reference, just recollection. We compared them the following Sunday. They didn't match. Some showed 5 streetlights on Birch Lane. Others showed 3. One map included a small alley behind Maple Court that half of us had never seen. And here's the worst part. When we went to verify, the alley was there. Narrow, overgrown, like it had always existed, but none of us could agree on when it appeared. That night, I walked the neighborhood alone, trying to memorize everything, counting houses, tracing corners, repeating details under my breath. Mailbox dent, cracked sidewalk tile, blue shutters on the corner house. I felt ridiculous until Monday morning. The blue shutters were green. Not freshly painted, just green. I knocked on the homeowner's door. "Have your shutters always been green?" She stared at me like I asked if the sky was optional. "Yes," she said slowly. Her social media photos showed green shutters going back 6 years. I began to doubt myself. That doubt spread quickly, and that's when things accelerated. Streetlights flickered out of existence between blinks. Garden fences shortened. Driveways shifted slightly left. It wasn't chaos. It was subtle, efficient, as if the neighborhood were simplifying itself. On the third Sunday, Dr. Pierce spoke again. "I think the neighborhood requires consensus," he said. "If enough of us agree on its structure, it stabilizes. If we disagree, it corrects." "Corrects to what?" someone whispered. He didn't answer. We ran another experiment. This time we collaborated. Together we drew one unified map, every house numbered, every tree marked, every lamp counted. We memorized it, not casually, ritually. We walked the streets together, reciting details aloud. 5 lights on Birch, curve on southwest corner, red shutters on 12th. That week, nothing moved. For the first time in months, stability. No missing signs, no altered addresses, no spontaneous alleys. Relief washed over us. Until someone missed a meeting. Just one person. Mrs. Alder had a fever and stayed home. That night, the southwest curve vanished again. Sharp angle, permanent. Her house number changed back to 118. Google Maps updated accordingly. The unified map we had drawn showed the curve, but reality disagreed. We realized something terrifying. It wasn't majority rule, it required unanimity. Every resident needed to hold the layout in mind, any lapse, and the grid recalculated. People started panicking. What if someone moved away? What if a new family arrived with a different memory of the streets? Would their perception overwrite ours? We began orientation sessions for newcomers, walk-through tours with deliberate repetition. This is a curve, we'd say, even if it was currently angled. You'll remember it as a curve. Some adapted, some didn't. One family left abruptly after insisting the park had never been central, that it had always been slightly north. 2 days later, the park shifted. Not much, maybe 20 feet, but enough that the old oak tree now cast shade over a different bench, and no one could prove it had always been that way. I keep a notebook now, daily sketches, measurements, coordinates. But here's what frightens me most. The neighborhood feels smaller, like unnecessary features are being trimmed, driveways merging, yards narrowing, corners smoothing, as if reality prefers minimalism. Listener, how certain are you of your street's layout? Could you draw it from memory? Would your neighbors draw the same one? Because if space depends on shared agreement, what happens in cities of millions? And what happens when memory starts to diverge? We still meet every Sunday, reciting, confirming, holding the map in place. But sometimes late at night, I walk alone and feel the sidewalks tighten under my feet, as if the neighborhood is waiting for us to slip. Waiting for one forgotten detail, one missed meeting, one mind that remembers differently, and then it will redraw itself entirely. Say continue.
My name is Victor Hale, and I was hired to document a monument that does not exist anymore. Officially, it was called the Pillar of Accord. Unofficially, we called it the Needle. It appeared in Caldwell Square 3 years ago. No construction crews, no permits, no announcement. It was simply there. One morning, commuters stepped into the square and found a structure rising from the center fountain. A slender column of pale stone twisting upward into a narrow point that caught the sun like glass. It wasn't ancient. It wasn't modern. It looked consensual, like it had been voted into existence. The city claimed responsibility within hours. Press release, dedication ceremony, plaque at the base. The plaque read, "To the agreement that holds us upright." I'm a videographer by trade. I was contracted to film the dedication ceremony for archival purposes. That's when I noticed the first anomaly. The monument looked taller through the camera lens, not perspective distortion, physically taller. When I lowered the camera, it seemed shorter. When I raised it again, it extended slightly, almost imperceptibly. I assumed it was nerves until the crowd began clapping. The applause rolled across the square in waves, and the monument vibrated. Subtle, elegant, but undeniable. Each surge of sound seemed to steady it, to sharpen its edges. After the ceremony, people lingered. Tourists posed for photos. Children ran around the base. As long as eyes remained on it, the structure felt solid, anchored. But that night, I returned alone. No crowds, no lights, no applause. The square was quiet. The pillar looked thinner. I stepped closer. Hairline fractures traced its surface.
tiny branching lines like stress marks in porcelain. I circled it slowly. The fractures deepened when I looked away. Not instantly, but gradually. When my gaze drifted toward the fountain, a crack widened. When I turned back, it sealed. I froze. Then I did something stupid. I closed my eyes, just for 3 seconds. When I opened them, the pillar was shorter. Not collapsed, just reduced, as if a few feet had been shaved from the top. I checked my earlier footage at home. The recorded video showed no fractures, no height change. The monument remained perfectly intact on screen, but the timestamp told the truth. The clip labeled 10:42 p.m. showed a structure clearly taller than what I had just seen. I went back the next day during lunch hour. Crowds filled the square. The monument gleamed, pristine, no cracks, full height restored. I interviewed passers-by for a follow-up feature. "Beautiful, isn't it?" one woman said. "It feels permanent," a man added. Permanent. That word echoed in my head. Permanent things don't respond to attention. Permanent things don't thin when unobserved. Over the next month, I ran experiments. I live-streamed the monument overnight. Viewer count 2,300. The next morning, the pillar stood flawless. I shut the stream off one night. The following morning, a visible seam ran down its side. The city quietly scheduled a cleaning. During the cleaning, crowds were encouraged to gather. The seam vanished by evening. I confronted a city official. He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it. He just said, "Public works are community efforts." That's when I understood. The monument wasn't built of stone. It was built of focus. It needed witnesses. It needed validation. It needed applause. One night, during a heavy storm, the square emptied completely. No tourists, no cameras, no bystanders. I watched from a high-rise window across the street, through binoculars. Lightning struck nearby. For a split second, illuminated in white, the pillar wasn't there. Just empty space above the fountain. Then darkness. When the power returned, it stood again, but smaller. The city doubled down on promotion after that. Festivals, concerts, public art nights, anything to keep eyes on the square. Attendance rose, so did the monument. It now towers nearly twice its original height. And here's the part that unsettles me most. It leans slightly toward the densest part of the crowd, like it prefers concentration, like it feeds on collective direction. Last week, for the first time, I saw something at the top. Movement, a ripple, almost like the stone wasn't stone at all, but layered perception compressing into shape. Listener, have you ever visited a famous landmark and felt it larger than life? Have you ever noticed how empty monuments seem smaller when no one is around? What if they are? What if statues require attention the way lungs require air? And what if, when crowds disperse permanently, the monument doesn't just crumble, it vanishes? I've stopped filming it at night because I don't want to know how much remains when no one is looking. But sometimes, when the square is packed, when applause rises in waves, I swear the pillar tilts slightly, not toward the sky, but toward us, as if it's trying to see who's keeping it alive. Tonight, we explored objects that refuse permanence, rooms that negotiate with belief, and realities that only behave when watched. But before you leave, pause. Look at something near you. A door, a wall, your reflection. Are you certain it stays the same when you turn away? Or does it wait for permission to decide what it is? In this episode, homes reshaped themselves around dissatisfaction. Spaces stabilized under shared perception, and a voice, perhaps mine, held form only because you were listening. So let me ask you something carefully. When you stop paying attention, does your world remain fixed, or does it quietly renegotiate itself? Because observation is not passive, it is participation. You are not just witnessing reality, you are reinforcing it. And if enough of us stop noticing, what dissolves first? The objects, the spaces, or the people who rely on being remembered? Tonight, when you switch off the light, don't move immediately. Stay still. Listen for the soft adjustment of walls settling into new decisions. If you hear nothing, that doesn't mean nothing changed. It may just mean you weren't meant to notice. This is Mr. Haunting Whispers TV, where perception is fragile, memory is negotiable, and the unseen waits patiently for your attention. Until next time, keep watching, because something might be watching back, and it may need you more than you realize.
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.